Chapter 406-408. Do not question me, Black Zetsu. Project Tsuki no Mi will be completed no matter what it takes. Obito said decisively. Really? After a pause, Black Zetsu sneered, but the way you are right now, you don't seem to be able to do anything, even the likes of Homusubi managed to kill you. How do you plan on continuing from here on? All we have managed to do is capture a single bijou, and the whole shinobi world is already aware of Akatsuki's intentions. What do you plan to do from here on out? Fire great shinobi villages, and Amitsukami, how do you plan to oppose them all with that meager strength of yours? Even those without space-time jutsu managed to kill you. To me, you look nothing more than a pathetic loser. Drip. The gloomy cave fell into silence, and only the faint sound of water dripping could be heard. It is not the first time that Black Zetsu and Obito have discussed this topic. Since Akatsuki's defeat in the Summit War, Black Zetsu has repeatedly brought out this topic. Black Zetsu couldn't understand the reason behind Obito's hesitation. In Black Zetsu's view, anything that is useful and will benefit them should be taken without any hesitation, whether it belongs to them or not, and here they are talking about something that is already Obito's, so why the hesitation? No, to mention Black Zetsu, even the relatively simple-minded White Zetsu doesn't understand what's stopping Obito from taking back something that is already Obito's. Questioned by both Black and White Zetsu, Obito was silent. He couldn't bring himself to say it. After all, that thing no longer belongs to him. It was his last gift to Kakashi. At the same time, it also carries the hope that Obito no longer has from this world. If it is really taken back, then even the last bits of Uchiha Obito who once dreamt of becoming the Hokage would completely disappear. Aside from his intention of not wanting to face Kakashi, Obito does not want to personally bury the last bit of his innocence himself. But Black Zetsu does not care about Obito's intentions, nor does he care about Obito's emotions. At the moment, when he saw the leader of Amitsukami, and the kind of powers the leader of Amitsukami has, Black Zetsu felt unprecedented crises. Being a product of Otsutsuki Kagaya's will, Black Zetsu obviously realizes that the kind of powers the leader of Amitsukami was using are similar to that of Hagoromo and Hamura. There are various theories in his mind about the possible identity of Yama, and if any of them are correct, then he is going to have serious trouble reviving Kagaya from here on out. Therefore, he has spared no effort in increasing Akatsuki's strength to further his plans. And increasing Obito's strength is also one of them. After all, there has to be a counter of Nagato, because Nagato is just a puppet necessary to bring Madara back to life at the right opportunity. Zetsu has to consider the possibility that Madara might not be revived with how things are turning out, so it is necessary for him to increase Obito's strength to ensure that Project Tsuki no Mi is completed, whether through Madara or through Obito, it must be completed. After all, Nagato's intentions are to suppress the shinobi world with force, and bring peace using pain. He has no knowledge of what the Project Tsuki no Mi truly entails, and Zetsu is quite sure that Nagato would not support the idea as well. But Obito's goal is Project Tsuki no Mi, so Obito is a good alternative, but the alternative has to be strong too, otherwise, the strength of revived Kagaya would be very weak. Therefore, Obito's strength must be increased for the grand scheme of things. Seeing Obito's silence, Black Zetsu said, if you do not want to take it back yourself, why not use other Akatsuki members? If you want, we can use Toby Sr. too. It's my business, I will take care of it myself, you do not need to intervene. Obito said coldly, then asked, is there any news about Shino? I have had my clones track his whereabouts, although I did not find any information that would directly point to Shino. However, I did manage to get a hold of one of Shino's former subordinates. He used to be a shinobi of the Land of Sky and was quite a close aide to Shino, but for some reason, he betrayed the Land of Sky and even quit his life as a shinobi. Perhaps because he had some conflicts with Shino's methods. Anyway, after I obtained all the information from him about Shino, I was able to find the location where his base should have been. Black Zetsu said. Obito raised his eyebrow, was there? Does that mean it's no longer there? What do you mean? Black Zetsu said, I am not too sure either. It seemed that Shino had his subordinates turn an old ruined temple into some kind of air fortress, which is probably the place he is hiding in. Obito said, if he is really in an air fortress, tracking him would be almost impossible. Zetsu nodded, yes, I couldn't find anything else that would give me any more information about his whereabouts. Moreover, since he has betrayed us, he hasn't made any more public appearances. Obito had a thoughtful look on his face, and questioned, so what is your input in this? Black Zetsu said, if I have to think, then I would say he is probably already dead. That does make sense, with his character. I don't think he is the type who would remain silent for such a long time, and it can only be Amitsukami who could have killed him so silently. Concluded Obito, and thought, it's also possible that Amitsukami's hideout is somewhere in the sky. This would also explain why all our search to locate Amitsukami's hideout has turned into vain. After reaching this conclusion, Obito made sure that he would try to find a method to carry out aerial investigation no matter how incredibly hard it may be. Next, Obito asked, is there any information about Orochimaru's whereabouts? I do have some leads that might possibly lead to Orochimaru, but I am not so sure. Zetsu replied. Obito asked again, where is he? White Zetsu said, if the information is correct then he should be somewhere in the land of rice fields. Oh sorry, now it is called the Land of Sound. The country has been renamed into the Land of Sound some time ago. Land of Sound. Obito repeated. Zetsu nodded, yes, there are rumors about a new shinobi village coming into existence in the Land of Sound. They call themselves Otogekure. Otogekure, huh? Does this have anything to do with Orochimaru? Is there any connection between them? Obito asked. Zetsu said with a sigh, as I mentioned, I am not so sure. But what do you want with him? Obito thought a little, let the new recruits go after him, and see how that turns out. Each of the four of them has quite the potential, it would also allow me to test their abilities and figure out on what level they truly stand and plan out my further strategy. Zetsu nodded, then asked, do you also want to send Tobi Sr.? Obito shook his head, then said, not him, I don't want to reveal his existence right now, he will be one of the trump cards. Let Biwa Juzo go with them, it would be a reunion for the Kirigakure shinobi. Zetsu nodded, but will they be able to kill Orochimaru? Obito sighed, hard to say, even I am not sure if killing Orochimaru is even possible or not, let's just use him for testing out the four of them, then we can have Nagato deal with Orochimaru. Zetsu then said, and what do you plan to do with Kirigakure now? Obito said, the fact that Yagura was being controlled by me has already been revealed to the high level of Kirigakure, and Amatsukami, so it's pointless to take control of Kirigakure again. The standby sealed inside him is important, but I suppose that can wait for now. When the other villages hear news about this, it will cause an uproar and complicate things a little bit, but I suppose it changes nothing in the end anyway. Let Akatsuki lay low for a while until everyone has recovered. For Kage have already become prey to Akatsuki. Both Sandaime and Yondaime Kazekage were killed by Sasori, Yondaime Hokage died because of Akatsuki, and Yondaime Mizukage became a puppet in Akatsuki's hands. With this it is natural that the Kage will become incredibly vigilant and more aggressive to hunt down Akatsuki, so it is better that Akatsuki lay low for a while, until everyone has recovered to their full strength. Zetsu nodded, and with everything discussed both Zetsu and Obito left the Land of Water and went into the direction of the Land of Waves.
A few nights later in Kirigakure, you, plop, was all dos particular Kirigakure bumanage de Tosei before his consciousness became do and refell asleep on the floor, snore. After taking care of the ambu, Itachi Vitedro his gaze and said to the person who came from the other side of the passage. The guardian dos passage has been taken care of Tsuki-san. The one on my side has also been resolved. Let's move forward, said Tsuki. Then together with Itachi she started to go deeper inside the Mizukage building. As both Itachi and Tsuki walk side by side, Itachi suddenly said, the security here is a bit abnormal. Tsuki, Nilbate asked Itachi noneteles, why do you think so Itachiko? Itachi said, the number of guards is very low, moreover, their strength is also not nearly enough for the job. Tsuki nodded with a toguful expression, that is true I suppose. The level of security is indeed quite low, it is almost as if someone is inviting us inside. The level of security in the Mizukage building is indeed abnormal. After seeking inside the Mizukage building, Tsuki and Itachi have only encountered about 6 guards up to now, and their strength was only at the level of an elite genin. Such a low level of combat force is being used to protect the cage of a great shinobi village. Not to mention a shinobi village that has just gone through a civil war 3 days ago, it is obvious that the situation is a bit abnormal, and Tsuki does not deny this. Itachi said, do you think this is a trap Tsuki-san? Tsuki shook her head, it is possible, but I don't think that's the case. I am more inclined to believe in the other possibility. The other one? Meaning Kirigakure hire UPS are pressuring Mizukage-sama to abdicate as early as possible. Itachi asked with a toguful expression. Tsuki nodded, probably one of the main Miss Kirigakure elders are using to pressure Karatashi Yagura into abdicating as soon as possible. Following his confession, Yagura's political power has been taken away completely, and Yagura did not pose any resistance to it. But no one in Kirigakure has enough strength to match up to Yagura, assent no one can openly ask him to quit the position of Mizukage. So these are just roundabout methods they are using. After the events following Kirigakure Civil War, Kirigakure Senior Management has been doing everything in their power to force Yagura's abdication as early as possible. All the blame for the Civil War was also transferred to Yagura's head by secretly manipulating information. The fact that Mizukage became a puppet in the hands of Akatsuki for over a year is only known to a few people, which only includes the Kirigakure higher UPS and a few elite jonin. None of the other shinobi or civilians in Kirigakure, nor any other shinobi villages are aware of this information yet. So putting the blame for everything on Yagura's head has been very easy. Moreover, there has been no statement from Yagura himself to deny the blame, perhaps because Yagura does feel guilty about what all happened to Kirigakure. After all, in a way, It was partly his fault, so the accusations against him are not wrong-either. Overall, public opinion has completely shifted in Agura's favor, and people are demanding that he abdicates the position of Mizukage as early as possible. Such things are happening even after Agura has already stated that he will abdicate from the position of Mizukage. But it seems that few people who lust for power can't wait anymore, or perhaps they are skeptical about Agura's words. After all, this is Kirigakuri, and Kirigakuri's Kage is not selected by the public or the elders of the village. According to the rules and traditions, the strongest shinobi of the village becomes the Mizukage, regardless of their age. This is also the reason why Zabuza dared to laut Akudeetata. He knew that, if he proves to be the strongest shinobi in Kirigakuri by killing Karatashi Agura then everyone, even the elders will have to accept him as the Mizukage. Although he failed to become the Mizukage, the rules still remain the same. Therefore, even if Agura has lost his reputation, his strength is still the strongest in Kirigakuri. So anyone viaker de him cannot force him to abdicate upfront. Asante they are using this indirect underhand methods and exploiting the guilt in Agura's heart. Tsukii does not know how Agura died in the canon, but suicide is also one of the many possible causes of his death, similar to how Atake Sakumo killed himself. It is possible that Agura also killed himself. And if Agura were to die, then without Adobe Terumi will become the next Mizukage. Itachi and Tsukii have already reached the conclusion that Mei's strength does not meet the requirement for the next Mizukage. And since Zabuza was also a disappointment, so Agura is the best choice. The fact that Agura acts Akatsuki helps a lot, and this hatred in Agura's heart can be exploited, so overall, Agura can be a good pawn. Asante Tsukii does not want this good pawn to die, at least not before he has proven useful to her, therefore, she and Itachi are here. To make sure that Agura remains the Mizukage, and at the same time becomes a loyal subordinate of Amatsukami similar to Pakura, the Godami Kazekage. Itachi said with a sad expression, no matter which village, there are always people who struggle for power and forget the secret of what is truly important, and what truly matters. This is the kind of world we live in. And this cannot be changed. People will always struggle for such pet things, war may stop, peace may come or it may not come. But these basic desires and faults within a man's heart will never change, and these qualities and differences give rise to conflicts, so away. It would be wrong to say that peace will never come, and if you want to accomplish your dream of ending all wars, then you have a very long road ahead of you. Just being the strongest won't help you in this. Tsukii said. Itachi had a togufull expression on his face as responded over Tsukii's words. Tsukii did not disturb him, and the two continued to silently walk further inside. The reason for bringing Itachi is fairly obvious. Tsukii wants to subdue Agura without causing much of a ruckus. In the blink of an eye, the two of them arrived on the fast underground floor of the Mizukage building. Along the way, they only encountered two more guards, both of whom were easily taken care of by the two of them. And after extracting information about Agura's position from one of the guards, Tsukii and Itachi proceeded. Somewhere on the underground floor, Agura rubbed the corner of his eyes retried to make out anything that would give him some lead for the information he has been trying to figure out. The young adult's face shows clear signs of fatigue and emptiness. Physical fatigue because of tirelessly working for the past few days is another thing. Agura is more fatigued because of the pressure from the elders. After having a sig, Agura pondered over his deduction. Just when he thought that he has reached a conclusion, his mind suddenly shifted, and a bad premonition surged in his heart. Agura immediately leaned against the wall adjacent to the door of this room and then used and then tried listening to the sound of silent footsteps. Only a single person. Agura muttered while listening to the light sound of footsteps coming from a few passages away. Considering that it is midnight currently, any shinobi from the village should not be coming to meet him at this time. And before coming here, Agura had already instructed the leftover few guards in the Mizukage building to not disturb him, so, according to common sense, and with what little respect they have left for him, nobody would disturb him unless there is an emergency, the possibility of which can't be ruled out. Is there something wrong in the village? This was a momentary thought, and a logical one too, but Agura denied this possibility. Because if it was really an emergency, then the pace with which this person was coming towards him would have been rushed and panicked, not so quiet and relaxed. Moreover, Agura was sensing anything going on in the village, if some kind of chaos was going on in the village, then he would have felt that for sure, after all. Vibrations are still detectable. Assassin to kill me was another guess. This one was the wrong either, given how much pressure he has been facing for a few days now. It is quite logical that some of them would also use the means of assassination to get rid of him early. When he thought of the possibility of assassin, Agura had a bit of hesitation on his face, and he really loved to live after what he have led the village into. Perhaps he would be better off dead, perhaps the village would be better off with him dead. Guilt was already killing him, it would change nothing if he were to die early. It is not as if anyone is going to mourn his death after what he has led the village into. But what if it is an enemy who wants to use the vac period, was another thought as the image of the masked man. Blue-eyed Kunoichi of the paper style and hippie paterned age shinobi flashed from his memories. And along with memories, anger also appeared in his mind. Normally, shinobi are not influenced by their emotions. But Yagura could ignored could to restrain his anger when he thought of those Akatsuki members again trying to do something to the village. With a gloomy expression, Yagura picked up his double oak club and prepared for a battle. If it is Akatsuki then. Thought Yagura's he disappeared from this home. Yagura was controlled by Akatsuki and based on the information he has studied about the Akatsuki, their goal is to collect all the 9 biju they already have in Ibi, and since Ishibi is dead, so it is possible that their next target is Sambi. But Yagura did not care whether their goal is Sambi or him, he has to make sure that the village remains safe at all costs, after all. No one in Kirigakuri can match up to their strength, the worst comes to worst, he will die, but the village should remain safe. Voshos. With the sound of breaking past the wind, Yagura appeared in front of the intruder, Biju chakra caught in his body, killing it in his mouth, and with anger surging in his heart his double oak club with all his strength. He did not want to be careless, because he recognizes the identity of the person standing before him. A black cloak with a golden pattern and a flame mask, Yagura might not have directly met this person before, but he does know the information about this person. Everybody does. It was none other than a member of Amatsukami standing in front of him, to be more specific, it was Omuzubi, Jin. But instead of killing the enemy with a single blow, a loud metal symphony resounded in the underground passage. The reason was that Omuzubi blocked his club with a kunai, and only took a single step backward to cancel off the momentum of his strike. Yagura was surprised. Amatsukami is an organization at the same level as Akatsuki, so it is obvious that killing the enemy won't be so easy. Asante. Reentered version 2 Biju mode do not think this village to be a playground for you people. And lunged a kick at Omuzubi's head. Boom. But the kick was easily blocked by a red hand made of chakra that extended from a ribcage type chakra wrapped around Omuzubi. Once Jin Shurikinters the Biju mode the strengthening behind each of their moves is increased several times, disincreasing in strengthening is much more in the version 2 mode. So Yagura was sure that even if it won't kill Omuzubi, it would at least send him flying. But the fact that Omuzubi stopped that strike so easily was nothing short of a surprise. Even the coral that was supposed to have trapped Omuzubi was broken away by that ribcage structure. What is this head chakra? Yagura muttered to himself while analyzing the opposite parts move. It could ignore could TB Suzano O. Become based on the intelligence Omuzubi Suzano O is golden, but that shape and that evil chakra. Be careful Yagura, that is undoubtedly Suzano O, was what Sambi said to him. Is that so? In that case, he must use Bijudama, anything else won't work on him. Yagura said and started to condense Bijudama. Amaterasu. But before he could fire the Bijudama on Omuzubi, black flame suddenly appeared on his body. Katon? Thought Yagura but realized that is not the case here, this is no ordinary fire. Yagura realized that what engulfed him is no ordinary fire, it won't just go away and he could only reach and scream agony and pain him. As all his attempts to get rid of the fire proved to be fruitless. In just a short few moments Yagura collapsed, still burning from the heat of Amaterasu. Damn you! Uchiha was his last thought as he lost consciousness. After Yagura lost consciousness, the Biju cloak on his body disappeared, and the black flames also faded away under Omuzubi's command. Defeated him already your strength in Shah has improved Tashi, said Suki as she walked out from the shadows. She observed the entire fight that did not even last 30 seconds, in which Tashi made short work of the Mizukage. Omuzubi removed his mask and said, "I still not strong enough to match you, Shizui-san, and Kuroto-san." Suki just smiled and said, "You will hit there eventually." Then continued after a pause, "Anivai, let's see the stage of Mizukage." Itachi nodded and gave way to Suki to walk closer and check upon Karatashi Yagura's state. Looking at the miserable figure of Yagura, with several burns on both his hands, legs, face and other body parts, Suki had a pitching look her eyes. But Suki's pitiful suddenly changed and she covered her nose and asked Itachi a more important question. Amaterasu deserves to be the strongest katon ninjutsu. He won't die, right? The reason being that the cell of coke meat was permeating in the air. Amaterasu is obviously stronger than her Oshomimi, because of its characteristics of burning for 7 days and 7 nights. It might not be as violent as Oshomimi, but it still ranks above Oshomimi. This is also one of the many reasons why Tsuki made sure to bring Itachi with her in the canon. Itachi easily defeated Yagura by the use of Amaterasu. Itachi nodded, he showed Tedai as long as he received timely medical attention. Tsuki nodded and said while she printed the handseals, I'll rig Itachi, in that case, prepare to use what we have planned, I'll make sure that Sanbi does not interfere. After that, she activated her Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan in order to stop Sanbi's interference.